One of the most interesting things on the national, international scene right now is this wave of unrest that's sweeping across the Middle East, Africa. Just terrible persecution going on for Republicans. Some people see this as, I should say, terrible persecution going on for Christians. Some people see this as sort of a Islamic versus Christian struggle. What's your take on that, and just how bad is the persecution overseas for Christians?
The persecution is very intense of Christians. When I was in Pakistan years ago, I talked to a man who had, converted from Islam to Christianity, and he'd been severely beaten and, arrested. Anwar Sadat's son-in-law in Egypt years ago was a famous soccer player. He was engaged to Sadat's daughter, and when he became a Christian, they put him in jail. They broke some of his bones. I mean, he was really mistreated. And I'm talking about several decades ago. So it's intense. I don't think the unrest that's going there now, though, has overtones of Christian versus Muslim. I think it's Muslim against Muslim, and it's a yearning for some kind of freedom besides what they've had. Gordon may have a...
Well, they're particularly in Egypt right now, I think you're looking at a tipping point. Could the youth of Egypt say, we want a true secular democracy? Or will the Muslim Brotherhood? Just last Friday, there was a Muslim cleric. He has a very popular television show on Al Jazeera. He'd been exiled for 30 years from Egypt. He comes back in to lead the prayers in the square on Friday. So you look at some of the statements he says, where he wants to wipe Israel off the map. He's calling for genocide of all Israelis, every man, woman, and child. He's publicly said that if you kill a pregnant Israeli woman, you're doing good because you're killing a future soldier. So you look at those kinds of statements and that kind of influence with the Muslim Brotherhood, where they've invited him to come run the organization. There are disturbing elements. And a year from now, will there be yet another Islamic theocracy in the Middle East? I think is still open to question. But I want to hope for the best. I want to hope that the youth can put in a secular democracy. There can be free and open elections. The Christian minority, the Coptic Christians in Egypt, will be protected. And I hope it doesn't turn out like Iraq. Iraq had one of the oldest Christian communities in the world, and it's been decimated since the war. And they've left in droves because they weren't safe in their home.
Well, you know, we in the United States, when Jimmy Carter was president, supported the fall of the Shah. The Shah was one of our closest allies, and when the Savak was apparently oppressing the people, and when they began to rise up against him, Carter said, well, we can't interfere in the affairs of somebody else's country. And then, lo and behold, this bearded cleric, Ayatollah Khomeini, comes in there. And within, a short period of time, they have set up the most extreme theocracy in the world. I mean, it's very oppressive. And right now, the youth in Iran are getting ready to revolt. If the United States would, give them some assistance in any way, I think that they could overthrow that group of mullahs that's over there. And that could bode well for Christianity, but it's one of the few.
Now, you have talked honestly about that we may be in the end times, and that, in fact, we are in the end times, Pat. When you see somebody like Iran's Ahmadinejad closing in on apparently being able to get his hands on nuclear weapons, when you see the unrest in Egypt and elsewhere in the Middle East, are these perhaps signs, indications that we are indeed approaching an Armageddon and Apocalypse?
I think the prophet Ezekiel has the best word for us to follow clearly. It's very hard. I was just reading today. I read through the entire book of Revelation today, as I recall, and it's tough to understand everything it says. Even though I've studied in seminary, it's still tough. But Ezekiel is pretty clear. And in the 38th chapter of Ezekiel, he talks about Israel being regathered from the nations into their land, and a coalition coming against it that is made up of what looks like Russia, Turkey, Iran, the Sudan, and miscellaneous other Caucasian powers. Well, that coalition is there. It's come together. Russia and Iran are working together. The Sudan, at least the northern Sudan, has been a Muslim hotbed. Libya might be included with it, but Turkey now is swinging from being a democratic secular state to being a Muslim state, and they're hostile to Israel. So it's all shaping up, and they are going to invade Israel in the latter days. So that, to me, is one of the most key prophetic signposts that we have available to us, and it's coming to pass. That's right now. I mean, and that atomic bomb is, I don't think that God is going to allow some crazy guy like Ahmadinejad to blow up the world with an atomic weapon. I just don't think he's going to allow it. Now, God may bring a meteor on us and we'll know who did it, but it's not, he's not going to turn this world loose to the crazies. But it is certainly frightening to think that nuclear technology is available to the AQ Khan network in Pakistan, or to Ahmadinejad in Iran, or to the people in North Korea.